Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 374 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our third book is called From Letters to Leaders, Leveraging Your Fraternity or Sorority Experience to Land Your Dream Job. So go and pick up that book today on Amazon. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, I love watching all the TEDx talks for all of the guests on our show, and our next guest is no exception. I've never done a TEDx talk personally, so send me an email, put in the comments what I should be talking about if I ever decide to do a TEDx talk. But here's the condition. It has to be something that I've never spoken about before, okay? That's my only condition. Now, let's talk to our next guest about her experience on the TEDx stage. Kathy James is a highly regarded trauma and mental health public speaker and a respected corporate leader with over 16 years of experience training and developing associates. Known for her powerful, inspiring TEDx talk, it's called Zooming In to Make a Difference, Kathy combines her expertise in corporate leadership and her personal journey of overcoming mental illness and depression to empower audiences across corporations, associations, schools, and colleges. Throughout her successful corporate career, Kathy has leveraged her resiliency and determination to break free from the chains of addiction, alcoholism, violence, and financial instability that plagued her family. Drawing from her own battles, she passionately raises awareness about mental and emotional health, sharing life-saving insights with the aim of making a positive impact on the lives of others. Welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you on the show. I know we've been talking for a while. Now
Yes.
the TEDx talk is out, so I'm super excited to do this interview with you and just share that TEDx talk with all of our listeners.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited as well.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I promise you're in good hands. We've done a
Yes.
couple of these shows before, so.
Right. Very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
so I mean, I really want to kind of talk about your childhood because I feel like the experience that you went through as a child really kind of impacted everything else that came
Yes.
afterwards. And you had a really rough childhood. Growing up, both of your parents, they were addicted to drugs. You were actually being raised by your grandparents, and you were subjected to all kinds of emotional, verbal, and physical violence. So talk to our audience a little bit about how that has impacted you.
Great. Thanks. Yes, both of my parents were addicted to drugs. Although my father wasn't involved in my life a great deal, my mother definitely was. My grandparents on my mother's side raised myself, my sister, and at some point, even some of my cousins, because unfortunately, alcoholism and addiction didn't stop in my family with my mother. It was actually rampant with her siblings, my aunts and uncles, and others in the family. So my grandparents had become enablers for their children. And so the children in the household were consistently subjected to their chosen lifestyle. The addictions, the mental illnesses, the withdrawals, oftentimes they're lovers. And as you can imagine, when you're subjected to that, your entire childhood, as statistics would say, you would eventually start to mimic those similar characteristics and those behaviors. And that was very true for me. I became a teen mother at the same age that my mother had me. I became a borderline alcoholic by the age of 19. I was consistently jobless, relying on government assistance to cover my bills because I was always without a job. And I was a ball full of rage and consistently depressed. And that trickled into my marriage and in every aspect of my life, as you can imagine.
You know, the other thing that, we should probably talk about as well is that you were subjected to all kinds of harassment at school. So
Yes.
what happened to you in school?
Right. So about the same, I was entering into middle school, And so I was now 12, 13 years old, and I was experiencing all of this at home and being subjected to became the target of my grandmother's kind of her own personal mental illnesses. Although she had no addictions, she still had mental illness. So I was being bullied kind of at home, but then I found myself being bullied at school as well, being subjected to name calling and harassments and lies and threats to and from school for 2.5 years. And so I felt like, school was my escape, but then I couldn't escape school. So I had it on both ends. Now, when I wasn't on the bus and I was away from those students or those peers, I can say that I actually had a decent friends, that would greet me in the halls and things like that. But besides that, the kids in my neighborhood and the kids on my bus, they were just bullies. And eventually I found myself taking up for myself, and I ended up being expelled from school with a broken nose. Found myself in a school that was meant for, the outcast kids, the bad kids. And I had a taste of what felt like control was. And it was downhill from there. I started searching out opportunities to get into fights. And I was no longer avoiding those kids in the back of the bus. And in fact, I eventually became the very bully I once loathed. And as a result, that just continued on even into my adulthood.
Wow. I mean, obviously, you turned your life around, and that's really what you talk about. And so, how did you ultimately end this violent cycle that you were in, and then break all of those self-destructive habits that you were in?
Right. So there was a turning point. There's always some sort of turning point. I had, I was still drinking heavily, still, subjecting myself to destructive habits. I was newly married, although our marriage was still on the brink of divorce even before we had even started. But out of desperation, one night I just found myself screaming. And that wasn't uncommon for me because of my anger, my rage, and my mental health condition at the time. But I found myself screaming and to the top of my lungs in bed one night. And I was screaming that I didn't want to do this anymore. Thankfully, there were some individuals, I guess I got to back up a little bit. There were some individuals that came into my life that started to show me it resembled something that I didn't have. And I didn't know what it was at the time. So looking back, it was their happiness. It was their joy. It was what looked like success, right? And so those things were drawing me to them. And it was different than what I had and what I had experienced growing up. But in this moment when I'm screaming, I make a decision and I tell myself that I don't want to do this anymore. And call it divine intervention, or whatever you would like to call it. But in that moment, I made a decision that I didn't have to do this anymore. I wasn't meant to walk in my mother's footsteps. And actually, years later, I would come to realize that my mother was never meant to walk in her footsteps. So, and that's profound for me because it took me a long time to come to that place of recognition that she was never meant to walk the path that she was leading as either. But I did make a decision in that moment that I was going to change for my son, and that I wasn't going to continue on the path that I was living. Now, did everything change in that moment? No. There's a lot of work that goes into that. What does that mean? What do I do next, right? From there, I think that because of those people that came into my life that was extending some hope and some support to me, I was able to reach back and accept it. Up to that point, I had just pushed it away and just like I did anyone else in my path at that time. But I pushed it away and I ignored the help being extended to me up until that point. From that point on, I started embracing the the support that was being extended to me, I didn't even know what a mentor was. And then when I learned what a mentor was, I started seeking out to find someone to mentor me, to guide me, and to help me. I had dropped out of school, so my education was really low at that time. And so I had to learn how to not only find and seek out healing, but I also had to kind of learn how to read and develop myself. And I did that because because of the people that I chose to surround myself with. I I started pulling away from those people, places, and things that kept me in the same mental space and that prevented me from growth. And I started following and seeking out the people that would make an impact, the experience, the movers, the shakers, the care, the empathy that I needed to be able to overcome my past. And 22 years later, I can say and look back and say that I'm healed from my past. Is my life perfect? No. I still have battles with anxiety. I still have battles with, stress, just like anyone else. But I know my body now, and I can recognize when those moments start to creep in, and I know how to manage those emotions much more quickly. But it was definitely surrounding myself with the right individuals. And I call those individuals my entourage. If you think about your cornermen and your cutmen and your spar partners in a professional fighting ring. And I say that because, that I was scrappy when I was growing up, and I fought against, I was fighting against the grain, if you will. And now I started to fight for myself. So it only made sense for me to kind of hold on to and take on the champion fighter theme. So I call these individuals my entourage. A lot of people call them their inner circle, their support system, but they are very much like an entourage in that, you need your mentors, you need people to guide you and to support you, and they all play an important role. And it must be somewhat strategic as well. It's not just, hey, my bestie is going to be my mentor. Your bestie has a role in your life, but you need something deeper than that. So,
Yeah, they say that you're the average of the five people that are
yes,
around you, right? And I think that that's certainly true in your case. I'm glad you found that right inner circle to surround yourself with. I think that's great. And you know what? Listen, the most motivated people on the planet need people around them to get the best out of them. I mean,
absolutely.
take Michael Jordan, for example. He had Phil Jackson, a coach that knew
Yep.
what buttons to push in order to get the maximum playing ability
Yes.
out of Michael Jordan every
Yep.
single night. So, you know what I mean? So this is for everybody. This isn't
Yes.
just people that have trauma like you have had.
Exactly.
It's really everybody on the planet. And
Yep.
so I love that you were able to find that. I think that's really
Yes.
good. Now,
Absolutely.
obviously I want to make sure that we can intervene before there's a major breakdown, right?
Right.
So how do you recognize that there's a problem? Let's say on a college campus that, there's other students walking around. How do you recognize that there is a problem, whether it be with their mental health or potentially with bullying?
Right. So I think that most people gravitate to the depressive or aggressive symptoms. And those are absolutely warning signs that something could be going on, right? Because we're not here to diagnose, we're here just to look for the warning signs and to offer and extend help, support, and hope. But aside from those outward, obvious, let's talk about sleeping habits, right? Uh, Consistently fatigued and unable to sleep, those are warning signs that it could be a warning sign of stress, right?
Mhm.
Or it could be a warning sign that there's something deeper than just stress over the essay or the exam, right? Then there's, backing, backing out of activities, a sudden disinterest, isolation, uh, an increase and consistent risky behavior, uh, alcohol use, drug use, sexual activity, their verbiage. If they are talking about feeling hopeless, or that they're placing self-blame on themselves consistently, everything's their fault, no one can help them, these are all warning signs that should raise that red flag for us, so that we can start a conversation, right? And if we're not equipped, if we don't feel confident to be the one to help, then we have resources that we can use to help find them the help that they need. And so there's I think educating ourselves on what to look for, body language wise, as well as verbiage, is going to be very important. And I really appreciate you asking me that, because that's a huge one. Because for me, I probably displayed all kinds of different warning signs, right? They were blaring, the sirens were going, right. And I'm thankful for the people that stepped into my life. Even those that I had rejected, they still left a mark on my heart, my mind, that will never be forgotten. And many of them, I've gone back and said, hey, I didn't accept it then, but I see it and I appreciate it. And it did sow a seed. And so I think that when we recognize that something is off, more than just the normal off day, that it's important that we build the rapport with that individual and continue to check in and to offer support and to gear ourselves up with the resources that can make a difference.
Yeah, so we got to intervene when we see those signs. I'm sure if I knew you in high school, it would have been glaring to me.
Yes.
I'd be like, whoa, like
yes.
Something is seriously going on here.
Yeah.
And we gotta get some help. And you talked a little bit about the resources there. Talk to us more. I mean, what resources are available if we want to support this individual, if we want to have empathy towards this individual, if we want to just care for this person?
Right. Well, there's tons online, but I'm going to give you a few. Many of you listening or watching will probably know that the National Suicide Hotline number has now changed. You don't have to dial the whole 1-800-XYZ to get to the suicide crisis line. It's now just a 3-digit number, 988. That 988 number is for calls and texts. And it's not just for the individuals who feel like they might, that they're for those individuals that feel like they might harm themselves, or they're stuck. It's for those people that want to offer support and just don't know how to as well. So I could pick up the phone today if I felt like Mike was showing some of those symptoms, and I've talked to him and I feel like I need a little more help and I don't know where to go to. The person I normally contact on the campus isn't available, but I need to talk to somebody now. 988. Okay. I can call 988 and tell them my situation, and they can offer me some advice. Or if I'm in a situation where I feel I'm hopeless, right? And I feel like I might harm myself, I can call 988 and somebody will pick up the phone and will help walk me through to find help, so, and NAMI, NAMI is a great resource as well. There's so many, the CDC, but at the drop of a dime, 988 is going to be your go-to for that. But I'm happy to provide more resources and links to anyone that feels like they need some additional support. So
that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. The other thing is that on these college campuses, there are counseling centers that are available And, this was not something that I took advantage of when I was in college. I didn't discover therapy until I was an adult. And what a
Right,
shame that is. Like,
right,
I could have easily
right.
just had some of these conversations with somebody back then, and then it would have been so helpful. So, talk to our audience a little bit about how therapy has helped you to have better relationships with your sons, with your family, with your friends.
Right. So my first time in therapy was when I was in my 20s. Shortly after I made this decision, I was growing and my mentors were helping me, and it became very obvious that if I was going to see the true results that I desired, that I was going to need some external help, the help of a therapist, a professional. And I kicked against it for a little while. And then I finally buckled and went. And I'm so glad that I did. In that time, I realized that I had not only been hiding all of these things about my past from everyone else, I was hiding them and hiding from them personally. And because I was avoiding them, I was harming myself even more. And so we started to pull back layers, and I started to deal with some of the trauma head on. And I was able to experience hope again and healing, and my relationships grew. And that was a wonderful experience. And I've gone to therapy at least 3 times since those year over the, so I've gone at least 4 times over the course of 20 some years now. And the last time that I went, it was maybe 3 years ago. My ex-husband had passed away, and I had 2 now grown, 2 young adult men living in the household and a teenager, trying to raise them all on my own. And we were all still battling with the grief of the situation. I was trying to find myself as a mom, as a friend, trying to continue to grow my career. And we started butting heads, right? And they were being themselves, but they were also trying to find themselves as young men. Anyways, long story short, we were consistently fighting. And it was more than just a little bout here and there. It got to the point where we were yelling across the room. So I felt like I was going backwards and rather than forwards. And I decided that I could not change their behaviors. I could not change any or control anything that they did or didn't do. And so I decided, I was like, well, I got to go back to the basics. What helped me before? And so I decided to start calling around, and I found a therapist office that I went to. And in doing so, I showed my sons, who were now young men, that it was okay to be vulnerable and to ask for help. And I showed them that I took our relationship so seriously that I was willing to go and to see a therapist. So, and I had to tell them a few times that it was not always just about them. I desperately needed to get back and to reground myself, right? And, and in that time, I was also talking to my therapist about my career passions. Call it a midlife crisis, call it what you will. I felt like I needed to be doing more. I knew that I had something in me that I wanted to do, and I just didn't know how to do it. So she listened to me from one spectrum of, I've got these teenage and young adult young men who are driving me bonkers and I don't know what to do, to I feel lost and I'm not passionate here anymore, and I want to do something more and give to the community more. And so in that time, I was able to get clarity on my goals and my relationships and a fresh perspective of the circumstances that were around me. I was able to finally grieve. Even though he was my ex-husband, we were still really good friends and we co-parented really well. So there was so many different things that I gained from this round of therapy. And today, I know without a shadow of a doubt that my 2 young men my three young men, the two that are now no longer at home, one going to Regent University 2 weeks from now, another one about to move to Florida to go to Full Sail University in a month, that I know without a shadow of a doubt that they're flourishing, and our relationships are flourishing because of that decision. And they know that mom has consistently developed and continues to do so. And so I was able to model that for them, complete opposite of what I had growing up. And it makes me super proud of myself and super proud of them, because they've grown as well, and they have to accept their own development, take responsibility for their own development, and they have. And so I know that those generational cycles are broken. And I'm super excited to see what happens in a year from now for all of my kids. Even my 16-year-old has an entrepreneurial mindset. And, he's creating t-shirts and, flipping shoes. It's just amazing to sit back and watch, knowing that I grew up on government assistance and the home was constantly in disarray. There was always police officers in the front yard, and it was consistently embarrassing to look back on that and to look forward and say that my children will have a happier future. It's an amazing thing. I know that by my making a decision to seek out the help that I needed from a therapist, that's what made it a huge difference. So I know that I kind of talked on all kinds of different things there, but that it's specifically I'm passionate about, because it's very much, if you want to lose weight and your accountability partner didn't work at the time, then what do you need to do? You need to go find a personal trainer in order to lose some weight. Going to therapy, yes, it's different, but it's no different than that. You can go, and if you know that you need a little external support, seek out someone with the experience to help you to get to that next level. And that's okay. And I will probably go to therapy again. And that's okay. I'm 100% comfortable saying that, because I believe in it that much.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And, we all talk about mental health, but I almost wish we would just call it brain health, because
Right.
we have no problems at all saying that I'm going to go, this morning I was lifting weights, and I was working on my biceps. Okay.
Right.
So, and in the afternoon, I'm going to work on my brain. It's just another, piece of my body. Right. And so I almost feel like we should just call it brain health, because then maybe we lose that stigma of going to talk to somebody. Right. Because it's just like me working on my biceps this morning. It's no different. I'm just working out a different part of my body.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't know, something to think about. But you talked a little bit about clarity around your career. And many of the college students who are listening right now, they're all feeling overwhelmed. I'm sure you see it in your own sons at different times, at different points, different moments, and they just don't know where to begin when it comes to their career. So what's your advice to them?
So I hate to beat a dead horse, but find someone that can help you and guide you, that will help you prioritize, so that you're not trying to do everything all on your own, and so that you're focused on the most important tasks, right? And that will help you create that resume, prep for that job interview, that will be a sounding board for new ideas, right? I will say that a lot of times I'm very creative, and I'm always innovative, and thinking of doing new things, and my entourage, my support system, will help me when I go far left or far right, and they will help ground me and make sure that I stay on task, if you will. You know, setting your priorities based off of what you want to accomplish, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Those people will help you to prioritize your goals and the tasks that you need to do to find that next job, right? And it can be overwhelming when you're putting application in after application, but if you an important part of that process is going to be self-care and making sure that you surround yourself with people that will help lift you up, and that you're taking time for yourself, and that you're spending time on the activities that will help improve you. I think that another thing that will help you separate you from the rest of the applicants is your willingness to continue to grow yourself. Upskilling in emotional intelligence, problem solving, and, you know, self-awareness. That's going to help you not only in your career, but also your brain health, right? So I think that those things are going to be important for you to survive the the career growth process. But I think that overall, that if you surround yourself with the right people, that they're going to help guide you through all of those things regardless. And it might be somebody that's on campus, it might not be, but being vigilant and trying to find that one person that fits what your needs are in the moment is going to be vital.
Very good. Excellent advice. You know, you just recently completed that TEDx talk. It's out now. It's called Zooming In to Make a Difference. Tell our audience, what was that experience like of giving a TEDx talk, and what was the response like? What are you hearing from people who are watching?
Yeah. So it was really cool. I ended up flying out to Boston, and I spent the day in Boston by myself, and that was really exciting, you know, to be able to do that, because I don't do that very often. That was fun in itself. And I do have a little bit of, you know, an audience, so I was able to kind of, you know, share that experience with the audience. But from the time that I applied to the time that I had the interview and was told that I was accepted, to the time that I had my launch, it was just an amazing experience. I got to meet new individuals. They were entrepreneurs. Some of them had spoken for many years. Some of them were brand new speakers. And then I got to meet the organizers, and I had several coaches that were, you know, that were committed to helping me and to grow. It was an amazing experience. And then, you know, once it launched, it's been about a month now. I think, yeah, it's been about a month that it launched. I held it back though, and I purposefully did not launch it initially because I wanted to have that celebration with all of my friends and colleagues. So, and that was amazing because I ended up having a launch party virtually, and we toasted and we watched the video together, and the overwhelming support and love from my friends and complete strangers has been amazing. It was nerve-wracking to an extent to share the details of my past openly, knowing that it could go, you know, international. I think TEDx has 35 million subscribers, I think they have. So obviously I don't think that I'll hit all of those, but to know that it's out there now, it's on the World Wide Web, and everybody's going to know my story. It could be nerve-wracking a little bit, but the amount of hope that I'm instilling. I had a coworker. I didn't know her very well. She found my TEDx, and she reached out to me at work, and she told me the impact that it had on her. She said she was crying, and that this was her, you know, and that she related, and she was going to be sharing it with her family so that she could help pass along that hope, you know, and it's just been an amazing thing. And it's hard to describe, but they're so well organized. You know, the TEDx, you know, they you know, they're always looking for that fresh idea. So you trying to find something you've never spoken on is probably the best way to go about it, because they don't want you to really speak on it anyway. So that's a really good idea. So send Mike all your ideas, but it's just an amazing experience that I'll probably end up doing again. I'm actually working with another TEDx event as acting as the communications manager. And so I'm actually on the you know, behind the scenes of the organizing team now. So, and that opportunity came up the same evening that I had my TEDx. So I went to dinner and spoke to someone that was in the audience, and that opportunity arose that same day. So it's just been an amazing opportunity and an amazing ride.
Wow, that is amazing. I love that family aspect. You're doing it on both sides now.
Yes.
Really, really cool stuff. Now, you know, we love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie
Yes.
Podcast. That's my weakness. So the next time I'm speaking in Virginia, where should I be going for a great meal?
Yes. So Olivia's on Main Street in Gloucester, Virginia.
Okay.
A local spot owned by, you know, a couple, and the food is amazing. Their prime, oh, to die for. It's so good. But you walk in and it's this, you know, little strip, you know, in the middle of, you know, the country. You know, it's just main streets. They're where the courthouse is, but it's got like little shops, you know, and boutiques and things like that. And then there's Olivia's, and you go in and it's all the locals, and the owner, who's also there, is the manager. He'll walk around and come to your tables and talk to you, and it's just a peaceful atmosphere with really good food. So Olivia's, Gloucester, Virginia.
All right, Gloucester, Virginia, Olivia's, I'm coming for you. I'm going to be there in the fall. I can't wait to check it out and have some good conversations with the owner. That should be a lot of fun.
Yes.
All right. So if our student listeners, if they want to book you to come and speak on their campus, where can they go in order to connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find my website. It's www.kathyjames.org, but you can also email me at hello@kathyjames.org.
Very easy. kathyjames.org. Of course, she spells that with a K.
Yes.
So go and check that out online, or send her an email, hello@kathyjames.org. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story with us today, Kathy.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And to our listening audience, if you enjoyed this conversation with Kathy, make sure that you like it on social media. Make sure you share it with other college students. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.